If, in fact, these two teams end up in the SEC, it would not be the first time the conference has expanded. It would be, in fact, the third. The last instance featured two Big 12 teams as well. That was when Missouri and Texas A&M made the move. That was in 2012. The first time we saw expansion came when Arkansas and South Carolina joined in 1991. Rod, we'll look at the bigger picture in a minute, but let's start specifically with the two conferences directly involved, the SEC and the Big 12, and what that means for those guys.
Yeah, Wendy, this is changing the game. That's what the SEC is doing. They are essentially creating an NFL-light kind of conference. I mean, they're going to be at a level way above every other conference with a huge competitive edge when it comes to spending and paying salaries for coaches, recruiting players, facilities. All these things will give them a huge advantage, not to mention, the reach of television for them. So they're changing the game, and the shot has been fired to the other conferences, DP, that if they want to compete, if they want to get in there, they can't sit tight. They also have to make moves.
It's a boss move. It's an absolute boss move to expand your market. It's already a lucrative. The league's already so lucrative and so successful, but now bringing Oklahoma. By the way, besides Oklahoma, who the heck else could you bring in that's that good and that dominant of late? Like, the only teams that come to mind is Ohio State and Clemson. Like, besides that, you're bringing in the brand of Oklahoma that has a bunch of history, but is also the brand that is Texas. So for the SEC, obviously, huge boss move. It gives them so much power in an era, too, Rod, where you got now, we don't know what the NCAA is going to look like in the future. Now the SEC is just gaining more power with more voices, more volume, more prestigious programs. But the Big 12, Wendy, this is the beginning of the end. Now it's about where do the pieces go from the Big 12, because this was what it's funny. 2016, Iowa State's athletic director came out and said, without Oklahoma and Texas, we're the Mountain West. Oklahoma and Texas ain't going to be here no more. So I guess they're the Mountain West now.
Yeah. But David, just think about the power that you get in the SEC now. I mean, and there's never a good idea to have a concentration of wealth and power. The SEC is now going to have 7 of the top 10 revenue-generating programs in the country. 7 of them. And with that kind of clout, and the NCAA really starting to disappear as an entity of authority and regulation and the like, the SEC will have the clout to do as it pleases. This is going to be a huge issue for the other conferences. This animal is a real big dog.
Well, listen, hold your fire there for just a minute, Rod, because I do want to talk about that. But just for some perspective here, first off, look at the historical implications of this, because what you have and what you referenced, if this happens, really will be the college football's first super conference, okay? You will have a lot of the power brokers confined in one place. The SEC would become the first conference, of course, with 16 teams since the WAC in a 3-year span from 1996 to 98. So a lot of different ways you can look at this. The Big 12, meanwhile, would be trimmed to just 8 teams. 10 years ago, it went from 12 to 10. So to Rod's point, David, and I think this is what everybody over the weekend was talking about, at least when I ran into folks, and that is, bottom line, is this good for college football?
I don't know yet. I don't think it's. I don't look at this and be like, oh my God, this is terrible. One thing I like about it, I do like that we'll start to see some rivalries really gain steam. Will we lose rivalries? Yes, we might lose Oklahoma State, which is obviously a big rival that we like to watch, but you might get Alabama, Oklahoma. You might get Georgia, Texas every year. So, I think it was one of those things that we always talked about. It would happen at some point. I think from the standpoint of power, and even across college football, probably not. It's probably not great for college football, but we were trending this direction at some point, and obviously they made the first. Wendy, I don't think it's over. I don't think this is the last team you're going to get in the SEC. Whether it's Florida State or Clemson or some of those teams, I don't think the SEC's done yet.
You know, David,
I don't think you
I
can
would
say maybe. It's
not
definitely
good.
not, Rod. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is not good for college football. And if I were the Big 12, I'd be on the horn with the Pac-12 and the ACC and say, look, guys, it's a long shot, but let's call the Justice Department. Let's complain that what we're seeing here with the SEC in Oklahoma and Texas is such a concentration of power and wealth that it lessens competition, that it eliminates consumer choice. You're going to wipe out an entire conference and sort of make that argument. But let me say this. From a national standpoint for fans and the like, this concentration in the SEC isn't good for college football. We already have people in the West who've been checking out of college football because they've got SEC fatigue. We are expanding to a 12-team playoff because people are just getting tired of seeing the same teams in. So if we get this concentration, we're not going to have a national game. It's really going to concentrate more of college football in the South and the Southeast, and everybody else will be irrelevant.
I hear what you're saying, Rod, and I understand that there's validity to that. So now it's incumbent upon the Big Ten to make its move. It's incumbent upon the Pac-12 to make their move. There are multiple teams out there now. Now go do your thing. Like, go create your super conference. If I'm the Big Ten, what makes the most sense? I grab LA. I'm already printing money. The Big Ten's done a great job with their deal, and their deal will be up in a couple years. I go engulf that market out west. So I hear what you're saying, and they can complain and they can try to stop it. It's going to happen. So now you create it in your conference. You make the Big Ten even bigger and even better. And now we got a couple of super conferences, and by God, we'll have good football every weekend.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.